Hello and welcome again to another episode of Sacktown Talks. Today we got a very special show for you. We got Assemblyman Mike Gipson joining us today. Mike, thanks for joining the program. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. How are you?
We're doing great here, getting better every day. Mike, I know it's kind of busy with committee season heading up. How's it coming back to the assembly and getting back to work?
I am absolutely excited to hit the ground running, getting back to work. There's so many different issues before the legislature, and I'm just happy to be a part of this body to address some of the major issues that affect California.
Mike, you've really made a lot of headway in some issues regarding kind of police enforcement in the last few years. Can we kind of get in your background? I know you got a unique background on this issue, coming from the Watts area and being, a former peace officer yourself. Can you kind of give the listeners kind of a little background on you and, your law enforcement experience and kind of how you came to Sacramento?
Sure. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity. One, I grew up in Watts. My father was a labor leader. My mother, she did domestic work. So we grew up very humble beginnings with me and my three wonderful sisters. My parents taught us the meaning of working hard and putting real emphasis and values on being a productive citizen in our society and working extremely hard for what you want in life. There's no free anything. You work hard for it. And so that is what was instilled into me and my sisters moving forward. I had a great opportunity to become a police officer because I believed in Superman. And what Superman did, he not only did they serve and protect, but also protected the most vulnerable of individuals in our community. And so I was happy that I went to the academy and I was offered to come and join the Maywood Police Department. And I served Maywood Police Department until my partner, John Hoagland, was killed in the line of duty. And so God redirected me to still do public service work, but from a different lens. And that's where I got involved and worked for a Los Angeles City Council member, a state senator, a member of Congress, Mervyn Dimely. And that's really started the trajectory as relates to me and my public service work in the community in California, in the Los Angeles area. And then I went on to become and worked for organized labor for SEIU. Started out with SAU Local 99, which represents classified employees of LA Unified School District. From there, I went to become a political director representing healthcare workers, nurses specifically in the Southern California area. And then I became statewide political director for the Janitors Union, fighting for dignity and respect and decent wages and benefits for janitors all across the state of California. And so it's because of that, that training has certainly created who you see today, fighting for jobs, fighting for people, individuals, and community, the least of these, the marginalized, the left for dead, those who society have labeled invisible. I represent now the 64th State Assembly District. And prior to that, I was in the Carson City Council for almost nearly 10 years. It was elected by the people of Carson in 2005. I'm very grateful that they gave me an opportunity to work with them and to represent them on the Carson City Council. And in 2014, I ran for the California State Assembly. And I was absolutely overwhelmed with the amount of support that catapulted me in this position, gave me victory in 2014 to represent areas where I was born and raised: Watts, Compton, Carson, Wilmington, North Long Beach, Linwood, Gardena, and Torrance, and Harbor Gateway, about 500,000 people. And each and every day, my goal is, because I understand who I am, understand my why, is to make those people's lives better. My district, and also the people of the state of California. I represent, Jared, you may not know this, but I represent the 6th poorest district in the entire state of California, which has the second highest unemployment rate because of this pandemic that we find ourselves in. So people are struggling to make ends meet. And we are stepping up in a very unapologetic way to talk about jobs and putting people to work and giving people an opportunity to work. If you look on any given day, whether it's a weekend or whatever, and some gun violence taking place, chances are, if it's in Southern California, the Los Angeles area, it's in my district. And that disturbs me greatly because I want to make sure that my community and other communities like it are safe communities. And that's why, I take a very unapologetic approach against gun violence and against the proliferation of guns, in our community. And I believe Father Boyle of Homeboys Bakery in East Los Angeles said, give a man or woman a job, stop a bullet. My job, I believe, no one can change my mind, is my job is to stop a whole bunch of bullets by giving people jobs that they can feel like they have a piece of the American dream. I'm talking about people who will have a job instead of getting a paycheck and instead of going to a check cashing place, they can deposit that check into the bank. I'm talking about people who, instead of living from pillow to post, they can get their own apartment and one day become a homeowner. That's the part of the American dream that I am trying to continue on. So when you talk about what your why is, my why is to make people's lives better. And hopefully that since I've been in this office, we've been fighting that particular fight, beating that particular drum in order to make people's lives better.
You come from a unique experience of, growing up in Watts, having been a peace officer, kind of, I guess, living through the LA riots in 1993, 94. And then here this summer, we had, more kind of riots and unrest after the George Floyd, incident. How did that experience help, give you a path to kind of achieve what you did with the carotid hold bill last year?
Well, right. One is it's a testament, one, that I'm very engaged and very active in my community. And certainly I've heard the voices of the people. They want change. They want to reimagine what law enforcement looks like in the state of California. So I stepped to the plate and wrote landmark legislation, which is Assembly Bill 1196, that banned the same method that took George Floyd's life away and Fernand Valenzuela over in Santa Ana. And other individuals whose names I don't know. So we banned the carotid artery restraints. We banned chocos. Carotid artery restraint is when an officer put his knee on your neck and block the airway, the oxygen that leads to the brain. And if it's held down long, what it does, it causes unconsciousness first, and then it leads to death if it's applied incorrectly. And so the chokehold, it restricts the blood flow, and it does the same thing. And so we wanted to ban those things because we have other large departments, not only in California, but other across the country that ban these practices, and it had not stopped them from making necessary arrests. It has not stopped police officers from doing their job. And so the governor signed 1196 into law. That went into effect January the 1st of this year, and I'm very excited to say. However, the man who you see in back of me, his name is Angelo Quinto. He lived in Antioch, California. He was killed in the same method George Floyd was, in his home in front of his mother. He was having a mental illness, and they called 911 to get and to de-escalate the situation, but it further exacerbated the issue, which the officer put his knee on Mr. Quinto's neck for almost 5 minutes, which absolutely caused him to die. And so that happened in December of 2020. My bill went into effect January 1st, 2021. So this bill you can't unring a bell. It's not retroactive to go back to, the week that Mr. Quinto lost his life. But moving forward, we're trying to correct some real issues by, again, reimagining what law enforcement looks like today. I have up in a few moments a bill, AB 490. AB 490 deals with positional asphyxiation. And what that means is that if you put your knee on someone's back and they're on the ground, you are restricting that person's flow. It's not the carotid artery restraints and it's not the chokehold, but nonetheless, the person can't breathe. And so this bill 490 will ban positional asphyxiation. You should not be restricting someone's oxygen flow. And so that's what this bill is about. It doesn't mean that police officers can not still arrest people, still put restraints on individuals. All it means is that you can't cut their airway off. You can't stop someone from breathing. When you hear people, I can't breathe. Well, their oxygen is being restricted. And so that's what this bill will simply do is, one, prohibit those kinds of methods from being used that restrict someone's oxygen from flowing. And that's not the intent. That's not what I believe police officer wants to do, but we want to make sure is not done. So we are creating 490 that would create a uniformity policy, a piece through legislation across all law enforcement in the state of California. And that's where we talk about reimagining what law enforcement looks like in this state.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your leadership on those issues. You've definitely taken a great stance on this, and I appreciate the work you've done there. May revise season's coming up next month. Budget priorities are coming in line. Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of your budget priorities for yourself and the 64th Assembly District this year?
Sure, Jared. We have a robust budget right now. That's not to mean that next year will be the same. And so I've asked for $10 million to go to Martin Luther King Community Hospital for very much needed services. Martin Luther King Community Hospital lies slab in the middle of my district that is serving an underserved population when it comes down to a lack of access to care, restrictions to care. And that hospital absolutely need resources. And we fought last year's budget, making sure that that they didn't cut funding to Martin Luther King Hospital, wrote a letter to the governor. The governor stepped up to the plate and made sure that they were not taking any resources away from Martin Luther King Hospital. Martin Luther King Hospital stands in a very designated center location that serves a number of communities that are underserved. And we want to make sure that Martin Luther King continue to keep their doors open, making sure they continue to be a beacon of light and hope for the Watts community, but the surrounding communities as well. I'm asking to renovate a park that hasn't been renovated in many years, because we realize that park space creates the kind of uniqueness and the viability around kids coming and playing and families gathering and things of that nature. So we want to do that to a park in the city of Carson called Carriage Crest Park. And also we're championing some other resources, some other dollar amount to try to help some disadvantaged children who we believe are authors. And so we have a program called a Young Authors Program, where we're teaching young people to write and publish. And we have done about, I think, 20 young people who are under 10 years of age who have written their own books and published these books. And you can get these books on Amazon and other different mechanisms to purchase and show support. These are incredible young authors, and they're not even in high school, and they're writing books. And we believe they'll become a bestseller, but it's also sparking the interest of other young people to also write and also reimagine where they are right now and becoming. We're hoping that it will be part of one of these books, will be part of Oprah Winfrey's book club, so that they can highlight these young people who have risen to the attention of Oprah Winfrey, so that they can also see success and also continue on writing great books. Look at the young poet who actually did her poetry at the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. She looks young. She's in her 20s, but she has done some very dynamic things. And we believe that's only the beginning of what the potential lies, not only in my communities, but also communities surrounding California. And so we have, again, a budget ask that we hope that the budget process will lend itself to be rewarding of my recommendations and my requests.
Those are all worthy items there. Park space has been crucial, especially in the LA area during this pandemic, to be able to get outside and, able to, give opportunities to young people is a worthy cause. We're coming up with the assembly hearings, the committee hearings are occurring right now. I guess, what other bills are you working on that are, your top priority this year?
Wow. So we also, again, reimagining. And I want to keep putting the word out there, reimagine. We want to reimagine not having police officer cliques in departments. And what that means simply is that we have police officers or law enforcement gangs within the police department that seek out and do bad things to people. And so we want to create a statewide policy that would prohibit and also mandate departments to create policies that prohibit police officer cliques or gangs. We realized that last year that the sheriff's department was found that there was police officer or sheriff's cliques within that department in Los Angeles County. and the sheriff, Alex Villanueva, has come out vehemently and strongly and unapologetically denouncing such cliques in his department and vowed to work against that. And so what he has done is sponsored my bill. So he is showing and exhibiting real leadership as one of the top cops in Los Angeles County to prohibit such cliques from even existing in the ranks of law enforcement. Not only that, I have a bill that will address those barriers that individuals go through in terms of dealing with colorectal cancer. We know there's about a $1,400 cost. And if you put that on that cost on people who are having a hard time making ends meet, then that means they won't get tested. And if they don't get tested, then they can become victim to cancer, colon cancer, which is preventable if it's caught early enough. So we want to try to remove a barrier based on a certain age of individuals who falls in a vulnerable category, that we can remove that barrier so that they can go and get the colonoscopy tested. So they can be tested for it, so they can find out what their status is. And hopefully, if they do in fact have it, is caught early enough and is treated sooner than later or not at all. And in addition to that, today I had a press conference with our Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Tony Thurman, where we introduced my Assembly Bill 520, that is Male Teachers of Color Act. And what that basically does, it encourages and creates more males into teaching. And so we want to, because you look at the total teaching population is dominated by women, and that's fine. But we also want to make sure that there are male role models for young student males to be able to look at and hopefully one day grow up to become teachers and continue in that profession that they want to start in terms of their career. But it's not enough male teachers, and we want to try to create tools in the toolbox that will create an opportunity for males to become teachers and also continue to be role models in their schools, so that our male students will be able to look up to a male teacher and be able to one day become a teacher. So there's a number of different bills, even health equity fund, where we want to talk about, Seeking California creating a health equity program to support partnerships among local health departments, community clinics, community-based, and other organizations. We want to make sure that when we talk about healthcare, that it's done equitable across the board. And so, again, we have about 19 bills that we are very enthusiastically supporting. One of the bills that, again, reimagining, is that we're banning pepper spray. 7 different cities, or counties, in California has banned the use of pepper spray. Wow. Now, when you use pepper spray on juveniles who's already traumatized because you're in a juvenile facility, that further disenfranchise those individuals. And so if 7 other counties can ban pepper spray, we should look at their best practice, and we should implement those kind of practices and have a uniformity across the board in the state of California. So we have Assembly Bill 1165 that will ban and prohibit the use of chemical spray, pepper spray, tear gas. They're all one and the same because we believe that our young people deserve better. Now, I will simply say we do this with a lens that we don't want to put any officer in harm's way or in jeopardy. But if 7 other counties are doing it, we should find out what they're doing in terms of the best practices and implement those same best practices throughout this entire state of California. So again, we invite you to look at some of the bills that I'm offering. There's about 19 bills. We're enthusiastic about those bills. It's certainly changes the trajectory in California in a number of different ways, for making sure that grocery stores and underserved communities are not closed down at will, and leaving a food desert into low underserved communities. We also creating a mobile stroke unit vehicle so that we can test people for strokes and things of that nature. And it's a mobile unit that will move out throughout the entire areas to making sure that that individuals who may be threatening strokes and things of that nature or get checked for or seeing you if you're in danger of strokes, we have a mobile stroke unit ban that can also help. And also we're doing a bill, AB 432, the Gambling Control Act, which I'm very, very excited about because it really speaks to why it's necessary for us to stand up in a very large way as it relates to licensing and making sure that people are not disenfranchised with respect to what the state is doing. And so we're here to try to tear down barriers and make people's lives better. We believe that government should be in a position to make people's lives better and not complicate things. And we know that this is a long, arduous process, but we're taking one step at a time to making sure, especially during this pandemic, where people are hurting. They need their government to support them, to hear them. And we hear you, we see you, we're going to support you. And that's the model that I'm leading by.
Wow, with 19 bills during this COVID session, that's impressive. You said earlier that Superman was your, you wanted to be Superman, and you're well on your way, Mike.
Thank you.
Just one last question, because I know you got to go. You said you wanted to be Superman. Right now you're in your Clark Kent get up. Kind of where did your iconic bow tie look come from? What propels you to wear the bow tie, Mike?
You know what? One of my mentors, a good friend of mine, Isidore Hall, when he was on the Compton City Council, he was wearing bow ties. And I saw a number of lawyers and judges wearing bow ties. And of course, the Nation of Islam, which I'm not a part of the Nation of Islam, but I saw it absolutely really draws to attention, and it has a classy look. And that's what I want to portray, whether or not, things that I may say may not be, but my appearance always should exhibit the professionalism that my office leads by in terms of example. And so I've always been infatuated by bow ties and continue to use this as part of my personality and my makeup. So it works for me.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Mike. I know you got to run, but good catching up with you. And we hope to catch up with you later in the year and see how you're doing. Stay away from the kryptonite. Yeah,
absolutely. I look forward to you guys inviting me again. Thank you so very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Mike.
it. Yeah.
We'll
Bye-bye now.
Dreamers.